It's a new year, and literary powerhouse Black Mountain Institute at UNLV is back with new free programs for everyone in Las Vegas. This season, BMI is bringing incredible writers to Las Vegas, including Iranian writer Manira Ravanpour, in conversation with one of my favorites, City of Asylum fellow Mariam Allah Amjadi at the Winchester Dondero Cultural Center on February 11th. BMI also hosts workshops, film screenings, book clubs, and other great literary programs. So visit blackmountaininstitute.org for more information.
You know everywhere to eat in the Arts District, and you've been up and down Spring Mountain. So what's next? Today in CityCast Las Vegas, I'm with Al Mancini, host of the Food and Loathing podcast and creator of the Neon Feast online restaurant guide. I'm going to get the intel on the next hot foodie neighborhoods and why you should visit them right now. It's Thursday, January 23rd. I'm Sarah Lohman, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. So, Al, I want to ask you some big picture questions to start here. You know, Vegas has been known for great food on the Strip since, let's say Wolfgang Puck in the 1980s. What do you think has accounted for the abundance of great restaurants that are now opening up off the Strip?
I think there's a very clear correlation. The celebrity chef boom really started happening around 1998 when Bellagio opened. All these huge celebrity chefs over the next 5 years wanted to come to Vegas. They brought in their best people from New York, from San Francisco to run the restaurants for them because the celebrities didn't move to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But they brought in some really talented young people to run their restaurants for them. Those people learned Las Vegas, and then they were about to get transferred out to maybe go work for Michael Mina's restaurant in another city or Wolfgang Puck's restaurant in another city or Gordon Ramsay, et cetera. And they're like, no, Vegas is affordable. I fell in love here. I can raise my family here. I want to stay here. I can actually afford a house. And I would never get that if I went back to New York. So they started looking for ways to stay in Las Vegas. And
that's a much more heartwarming answer than I expected. They fell in love with Vegas. That's so nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's the trend that I really started seeing about 10 years ago and that I really wanted to cover and that I really wanted to follow because that was the impetus for the move. And of course, it's snowballed into other things. And it's now become the fact that as much as I love the Strip, and I love the Strip to death, and I go there quite frequently, the Strip is no longer courting locals the way that it used to. There used to be a lot of discounts for locals, a lot of ways to get in or free parking or this or that.
Right.
And the Strip isn't doing that anymore. And I don't begrudge them that. I've lived in New York City and Times Square didn't try to get me in there. That was for the tourist.
You ended up there sometimes.
Yeah,
you had to go there sometimes. Yeah.
So with the Strip turning its attention, almost exclusively to tourists, there's this huge need out there in the burbs. And because there are so many people who really know food and beverage that have come to Las Vegas to work in some of those Strip restaurants, even though some that are still working in those Strip restaurants, they want to go out and dine at a good restaurant. Doesn't have to be super expensive, but it has to be good. And so that need as well, I think, led to it. But I really do think it was people that came to Las Vegas and fell in love with this town and didn't want to leave.
Yeah. And then, of course, we've got a lot of local culinary talent that was trained up on the Strip and then decided to move on and open their own spaces, too.
Yeah, and if you can get used to dealing with, casinos, accounting department and purchasing department and human resources department, right?
Admin.
You are set to run a small off-strip restaurant if you've done that, So there's a lot of talent in this town.
So I feel like for the last few years, a lot of our sort of foodie buzz has been concentrated in Asiatown and, of course, the Arts District. But I do feel like that's changing. Those places are now becoming both expensive or maybe saturated. So what has been the most surprising new food neighborhood that you've seen sort of blossoming?
There's basically three that I think have developed over the past, I'd say 2 or 3 years. But the one that kind of shocked me, sort of that it took so long, is Centennial Hills.
Really? Okay.
For the longest time, there was money up in Centennial Hills. There's population up in Centennial Hills, but nobody was really doing a restaurant that was aimed at people who care about ingredients and, a chef-driven restaurant, basically. And suddenly they started getting them up there. I mean, a lot's been said about Casa de Juliet, which is a fantastic Mexican restaurant that just opened up there from the Sandauer team. But we also have Sorry Not Sorry ice cream opened up there, which is a tremendous ice cream.
I really love Sorry Not Sorry. I have to say, it is, oh gosh, should I say it's my favorite?
It's pretty good.
My favorite in that style. It's really good. They do that ube honeycomb ice cream that is absolutely killer.
If you get a chance, it's the ugliest ice cream you'll ever see, but it tastes incredible. The campfire s'mores. And it actually has marshmallow ash in it. So it's turned sort of gray.
Wow.
But it looks horrible, but it tastes delicious. So yeah, Sorry Not Sorry, they're great company. And not only did they expand it to Centennial Hills, they opened a new concept there. The same guys, the same people. It's called With Love Always. It's a smash burger hamburger concept, very small, very casual.
Al, what is a smash burger? I do feel like this is one of our biggest trends this year. Unacknowledged trends is smashing burgers. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, a smash burger is anything that is intended to remind you of what you used to have at McDonald's when you were a little kid, right? I mean, it's the
like
opposite
in the Shake Shack genre. Like it's a ball, and you smash it flat. It's a real flat, sort of almost crispy patty.
Yeah, and it's really, really good. And in fact, they do frozen custard and soft serve, I should say. They do soft serve, but then they dip it. You remember those from when you were a kid? They dip it in like some chocolate, and it would harden up on top. And so they do.
Also, as like another ex-New Yorker, we've got our Mr. Softy trucks too.
Yeah.
You get the dip.
Mm-hmm. Right. So they do the dipped cones. They do some really sloppy, messy fries topped with everything. They do a couple types of burgers, and it's fantastic. And again, it's casual, so that's really cool. Also up in Centennial Hills, another chain, born and raised. It's a tavern chain, pub, a video poker bar. But they've always had better menus than most video poker bars, and they just expanded and opened a new location up in Centennial Hills. So I think the people who live up there, and again, Casa de Juliet, I absolutely love for Mexican
haven't been yet.
food.
I'm excited to go.
So I think that those folks are definitely, that would be number one. They're finally getting served up there. It is no longer a barren wasteland without any place to eat.
People want a local neighborhood good spot to eat.
Do you plan your vacations based on whether you can speak the local language? With Babbel, language no longer has to be the barrier. I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast, and I went to Mexico City a couple of years ago with my girlfriend, who's a native Spanish speaker, so I just let her do all the talking, like all of it. I adored the city, and now I'm going to go back in a couple of months, but with my college roommates, who are a bunch of middle-aged men, none of us Spanish speakers. When I was younger, I might not have been bold enough to do that, but now I'm not anxious because Babbel has me covered. Thanks to Babbel, I know how to order a taxi, how to give directions, how to order in a restaurant, all the small and useful bits of language that make international travel easier. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons, handcrafted by over 200 language experts, get you to begin speaking your new language in 3 weeks or whatever pace you choose. And because conversing is the key to really understanding each other in a new language, Babbel is designed using practical, real-world conversations, especially the sort you need while traveling. Food, how to get places. Babbel's tips and tools are inspired by the real-life stuff you actually need when communicating. With a focus on conversation, you'll be ready to talk wherever you go. So I hope I'll see you in Mexico in a couple of months. Or, as we say, espero verte en Mexico en un par de meses. So let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting CityCast listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast rules and restrictions may apply.
Okay, so let's talk about actually a neighborhood that is Arts District adjacent. We've got Huntridge and East Charleston, I think now benefiting from some of the spillover of the Arts District. It feels more affordable for people who want to open up a new space. So what is opening up there that you're excited about?
Yeah, first of all, I could not be more excited about a neighborhood than I am about Huntridge and East Charleston.
It's a cool place.
It feels the way the Arts District felt 5 years ago. Like there are only a couple things happening, but the energy is in the air. You can tell that exciting people are working there. So, of course, it all revolves around the Huntridge Theater being renovated.
Right.
The developer who's doing that, Jay Dapper, he owns a lot of the real estate around there. And he always likes to bring in, quality restaurants. So the first batch of getting Winnie and Ethel's Downtown Diner in there, of getting Yukon Pizza in there, even a new dive bar, 5-star dive bar, they call it, Jive Turkey. Those are all right by the Huntridge Theater. Those are all the landlord that is developing the Huntridge Theater. I don't know what he charges for rent, but I know that he has a vested interest in getting good, smart, quality, motivated people in there. So that was the start of it. But that neighborhood also has some good, legitimate, just like family-friendly food, right? Places where if you live somewhere around there, you can go. They've always had a Tacos El Gordo over there, and that, of course, that's just a Vegas classic. And then Carmelita's Mar y Tierra. Forgive my accent there, but it is a seafood-centered Mexican restaurant by Letitia Mitchell. She's the great chef who brought us Letitia's and Letty's. In the Arts District is Letty's. Letitia's up north. She got a great deal on the space, I guess, is what she told me. And it's a little further east from the Huntridge Theater, but not much, maybe 3/4 of a mile. And it's a really large place, not much in the way of decor. It's clean, it's comfortable, it's big, it's cavernous.
So what would you recommend ordering there? What have you had?
Oh, man, there's a lot of great dishes there, but I had this octopus or pulpo mocollete. Yeto. Again, my pronunciations are horrible. My apologies to all my Spanish-speaking friends. I'm so sorry. But it was just great. It was this beautiful, tender octopus, and the tentacles just overflowing from this bowl. It looked beautiful. And there's potatoes in there, and there's chorizo in there, and there's actually little tiny corn that they'd broken up, cobs of corn into small pieces. So almost like you would do in a clam bake kind of deal. And it's just a really great seafood dish. I absolutely love it. But explore the menu, because that's what I've been still doing. It's a relatively new restaurant. I go in, I just point at things that look crazy, and I explore it, and I've been enjoying it.
Wonderful. So, let's talk about Durango, because it exploded. It's had some setbacks. Of course, we've got the food hall within the Durango Casino. There's also Uncommons. The food hall within Uncommons closed, but now there's a new district called the Bend that's opening up. So what is going on in Durango? Is that our next big food neighborhood?
I do think that is an exploding food neighborhood right now for the burbs. And again, you hit the nail on the head, though. It's a lot of large projects, right? It's not these tiny little things. Whereas if you're downtown, it's all the kind of mom and pop things. But these are all large developments. Of course, Station Casinos always has great restaurant collections. There's no surprise that they're going to do things in there. But I live right around the corner, and I love their food court. I'm there all the time. And it has Mark Vetri's most casual local restaurant in there, and it's a Fiorella Pasta Bar. It's fantastic. It's off the food court. You go inside, you can sit at a bar and watch them cook your food on the other side of the bar. You can get a table. There's waiter service, so it's not food court service, and that's fantastic. But then, of course, you go out into the food court, and there's so many other things. It's great places to eat out there. So I think their food court is fantastic. I think their Mexican restaurant, Mijo, is great. Their Nico's is a really good steakhouse, a hell of a burger. For dessert, I never, ever leave Durango without stopping by Summer House and getting one of the big cookies that they sell at the little bakery out front.
What's your cookie preference there? Do you have a descending order of what's available, best to worst?
There's a great lemon cookie that I love. That's probably my favorite among their cookies. I also love their Oreo cookie Rice Krispie treats, which are really good. And they do a blondie that's really good there. So, yeah. And you could get them. You just walk up, order them, take them home. So, that's Durango. They have a ton of great things in there. Then if you go right across the street, right across Durango Boulevard or Drive on the other side, you hit Uncommons, as you said.
Right.
Yes, their food hall closed, kind of a drag. Something new will
Yeah.
come in there. But there's great stuff in there. Alantico Vinaio has amazing sandwiches. Amari's excellent Italian food. Wino's a great wine bar. And then the bites are by celebrity chef Sean McLean, right? And I've been in there and the food is fantastic. So it's Salt and Straw, if we've talked about Sorry Not Sorry being great ice cream, but Salt and Straw is fantastic ice cream.
But Sorry Not Sorry is local. So I maintain my stand of our local businesses. Salt and Straw is a pretty big chain at this point.
It is, but they've got some, there's flavors of the month are pretty good. So it's worth checking in. So I love Uncommons. I love the Durango Resort. And you're right. The Bend is coming up on another one of those corners of that huge intersection.
So what is it? Is it more like a food hall or is it kind of like outdoor mini restaurants like Uncommons?
Yeah, I would expect it to feel more like Uncommons, to feel more like the District, something like that, right? Phase 2, I know they're going to put a pickleball court in there. I think they may also eventually add a movie theater. I'm not 100% sure if that's happening, but they're in phase 1 and opening just this month. I mean, some are already open. Mothership Coffee is already open in there. I think the Great Greek is probably open by the time people hear this. Marufuku Ramen's coming before the end of the month. Evolve Brewing by the guys at Aces and Ales. That's coming, and I know I've heard some of the chefs they were talking to over there, and I'm really excited about the food there. Something called Union Biscuit. I don't even know what that is, but I'm excited because it sounds unusual.
I always support a union.
Yes. And Freed's Dessert Shop's going in there, right? So now you've got 3 of those 4 corners that are unbelievably developed with these developments that you could just drive to and then walk from place to place. And then popping up around them are some great standalone places, like right in that exact general area, Barbecue Mexicana. It's the first neighborhood outpost from celebrity chefs Susan Feniger and Mary Sue Milliken. It is a combination of Mexican cuisine and American barbecue. They even have a drive-through. It's the first time that the Border Grill ladies have done a restaurant with a drive-through. So that really serves the neighborhood for casual. Basilico is a fantastic Italian restaurant right around that neighborhood. So yes, that is really booming. That intersection of Durango Drive and the 215, things are happening there.
So I have to ask about a neighborhood that's like important to me. I'm a big fan of Water Street. I recently bought a home in Town Site because it feels up and coming. Al, when is it going to up and come?
It's felt up and coming since I moved here in 2001. And
fair enough. And of course, we do have Azura Cucina now, which, big accolades there when it opened up. But do you have a sense of when Water Street might catch up with these other foodie destinations?
No, and I feel like it's because I don't know if Water Street knows what it wants to be yet, right? At the end of the day, these other places, if you're in the Arts District or in the Hunt Ridge District, even though they're great catering to locals, they still want to attract, some tourists because, there's big business there. I feel like Water Street wants tourists not to even know it exists, right? It's sort of like for the people that never want to see a tourist.
Yeah, kind of why I love it.
I think that business model, I don't think they've quite caught on as to how to market that way and how to build that in this city where everything is so dependent on tourists. So they'll work it out eventually. They'll find that balance between commercialism and being the quiet place off to the side. But they've been having a hard time finding it.
Yeah. And for those of you who are curious, we recently did an episode where we walked Water Street and sort of talked about the businesses. But yeah, I do feel like my biggest critique of the neighborhood is that it's currently like a lot of bar food. And I would love to see more diverse dining options. But there are there's a couple new wine bars that are opening up as well. So we'll see what happens there. So what to you makes a great foodie neighborhood?
A great foodie neighborhood. Rents that are low enough to attract the really talented people who are breaking off from a major league restaurant and want their first step up without having to get huge investors from out of state, right? So we want affordable rents, very important. To me, it needs to be a walkable neighborhood or a little closer to a walkable neighborhood. And again, these giant complexes, that qualifies, right? But I do like the place where you can start off at a bar, then you can go to a place for a bite for appetizers, then you can go to another bar, then you could go to a place for more bites. I think
that is Water Street, Al. Maybe I got to take you on this Water Street walk. Well, I'm going to inspire in you a new love of Water Street.
Okay, I just don't think there are enough places to hit there yet. I really don't. I think there's a lot of bars. I just don't know.
We can get loaded. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I think inexpensive rents and the walkability, that's really important. And once you've tackled that, it's just a question of getting all the right people there and getting them excited about things.
So what does the emergence of these new food neighborhoods suggest to you about how Las Vegas is changing?
I think we are well on our way to becoming a really, really solid food city, not just for the high end stuff. Not all great food cities have great restaurants in every single neighborhood. And for years, LA didn't. Right. For years, LA was known for not having great neighborhood restaurants. And these days it does. Whatever neighborhood you live in LA, you're going to find some great restaurants in your neighborhood. Vegas, again, there were these deserts. There were places like Centennial Hills where there was really nothing. And now they're starting to get developed. We still have a long way to go. I think Green Valley needs a lot more than it already has. I think Henderson as a whole needs a lot more than it already has, although there are some fantastic restaurants there, of course.
Absolutely.
But I think that the emergence of these pockets and the fact that it's no longer just Fremont Street and Spring Mountain Road, that we could talk about all these others. We could talk about South Rainbow, which has a great collection of restaurants as well. There's going to be more and more and more and more every time we have this conversation, to the point that it'll get to New York City when I lived there, which was, in the 90s, that every neighborhood in Brooklyn, every neighborhood in Manhattan had a great Italian restaurant, right? Or had a couple cool restaurants that you could go to. And I think we're headed towards that. I think Las Vegas is just evolving into a fantastic food city valley-wide.
Agree. Thank you so much, Al.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
That's all for today on CityCast Las Vegas. We're going to include links to all of our recommendations in the show notes. And if you enjoyed the show, you should subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Las Vegas, for more great neighborhood dining picks. Also, tell a friend, take them out to dinner, rate our show and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Take care.